The alien soldiers' laughter echoed through the misty jungle, a sound thick with contempt. Helena, battered but unbroken, watched from the shadows, blood trickling from her lip. "You hear that, Elias?" she whispered, voice cold as steel. "Yeah," he grunted, clutching his bruised ribs. "They're laughing at their own funeral." The knife in her hand gleamed under the twin moons. Tonight, the hunters would become prey. The sky above Veltrax Fort churned with violet clouds, lit by flashes of green lightning. Beneath that sickly sky, Sergeant Helena Ward knelt in the mud, blood dripping from a split lip, hands tied behind her back with coarse plasma wire. Across the open clearing, rows of Galactic soldiers lounged against armored carriers, their monstrous frames glittering with exoskeletal armor, their laughter carrying across the clearing like a slap to the face. Elias Thorne slumped beside her, one eye swelling shut, his medic's patch torn from his jacket. He spat blood into the mud. "Good party," he muttered dryly. Helena didn't respond. Her gaze was locked on Commander Diarevok, a hulking alien with a wide mouth filled with too many teeth. He paced in front of them, talons clicking against the polished floor plates of the drop ship behind him. "Behold," Diarevok bellowed, arms spread wide. "The apex predators of Earth! Beasts from a savage world, broken, bleeding, begging." The soldiers roared with laughter, some tossing scraps of ration bars at the bound humans like they were feeding zoo animals. Helena's knuckles whitened as she strained against the plasma wire, the heat searing her wrists. She forced herself still. Rage was a blade, wielded too early, and it turned against you. Diarevok sauntered closer. He crouched before Helena, his breath reeking of copper and something fouler. His claw traced the line of her jaw, not quite touching. "Tell me, little ape," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "How does it feel to be prey?" Helena met his yellow gaze, unblinking. "Wouldn't know," she said flatly. "You're still breathing." A hush fell over the clearing. Then another wave of laughter, louder, meaner. Diarevok straightened, his smile cold. "Defiant until the end. Admirable." "Stupid." He turned away, waving a dismissive hand. "Release them. Let the jungle have its feast." Two soldiers kicked Helena and Elias onto their stomachs, slashing the plasma cords free. Pain flared up Helena's arms as circulation returned in savage pins and needles. "No weapons," Diarevok said. "No supplies. If they survive until dawn, maybe they'll earn a swift death." Helena rose shakily to her feet. Around her, the jungle loomed, a wall of gnarled vines and mist, whispering with unseen life. She felt Elias press up beside her, steady despite the blood dripping from his temple. "They're laughing now," he rasped under his breath. "But not for long." She nodded once. "Move." Without waiting for a signal, they staggered toward the treeline, every step an agony. No one stopped them. Why would they? Two unarmed humans against the deadliest soldiers in the quadrant. It wasn't an escape. It was a performance, a sport. The moment they crossed into the dense undergrowth, the sounds of the clearing faded, replaced by the heavy, wet breathing of the jungle. Branches clawed at Helena's arms. Something unseen slithered past her boot. They pushed deeper, until the ground turned soft, and the mist swallowed them whole. Finally, Helena stumbled against a fallen log, breathing hard. She crouched behind it, yanking Elias down beside her. "Status?" she asked, voice low. Elias winced, peeling back his shredded sleeve. His arm was a mess of bruises and cuts, but nothing fatal. "Alive. Angry. Standard operating procedure." She allowed herself a grim smile. "Good." Helena scanned their surroundings. The jungle was a living entity, watchful, hostile, hiding predators far worse than the Galactic soldiers. Perfect terrain for what she had in mind. "We have a window," she said, eyes narrowing. "They'll let us run for a while. Toy with us. Long enough to set traps? Long enough to turn this into a hunt." Elias nodded, his hand brushing the small survival implant buried in his wrist, a microblade, maybe a few inches long. Pathetic against plasma rifles, but in Helena's hands enough. She began gathering vines, snapping off sharp branches, scooping mud into makeshift pits. Her hands moved with mechanical precision, even as blood dripped from her split knuckles. Beside her, Elias worked silently, rigging a tripwire from twisted sinew, his fingers moving despite the tremors of exhaustion. Above them, thunder rumbled. The first heavy drops of rain began to fall, steaming where they touched the ground. "Won't be long before they come after us," Elias said. Helena tied off a noose with a brutal jerk. "Good. Let them come." She wiped her muddy hands against her pants, smearing dark streaks across the faded fabric. Her muscles screamed for rest, but she pushed to her feet. "Follow the river east," she said. "Use the mist for cover. I'll circle back after I lay the second line." Elias hesitated. "You sure about splitting up? They expect us to stick together," she said. "Let's disappoint them." He gave a wry chuckle and tapped his forehead in a mock salute. "See you on the other side." Helena melted into the mist, each step measured and silent. Her mind was already a map, marking kill zones, ambush points, fallback routes. She wasn't running anymore. She was hunting. Hours passed in a slow, grinding crawl. She caught glimpses of movement, shadowy figures crashing through the foliage, barking orders in languages she didn't recognize. Overconfidence made them sloppy. That would be their downfall. By the time the first squad triggered her deadfall, a crude but deadly spiked log swinging from a vine, Helena was already watching from above, crouched in the tangled branches. The leader didn't even have time to scream. The log struck his chest with a sickening crunch, flinging him backward into a tree. Panic rippled through the squad. Plasma bolts hissed through the mist, blind and desperate. Helena dropped onto the nearest soldier like a ghost, the microblade flashing once, twice, severing artery and throat. She caught his rifle before it hit the ground. One squad down. Others would come. She needed to move. In the distance, a shriek of rage echoed, Dra Vox's voice, unmistakable. Good, Helena thought as she melted back into the jungle. Let them know. Let them fear. Rain hammered the jungle, thickening the mist until it became a living wall. The trees groaned under the weight of water, their massive trunks slick and gleaming. Helena crouched in the dense undergrowth, rifle stolen from the first squad cradled loosely in her hands. She was mud-caked, soaked, invisible. Across a clearing barely 30 meters wide, she spotted them, 4 Galactic soldiers moving cautiously, weapons raised. Their armor gleamed under the muted light, exuding arrogance even now. They fanned out in a clumsy line, believing their superior tech would shield them. Helena smiled grimly. It wouldn't. She waited, heart steady, breath shallow. Timing was everything. The lead soldier's boot snagged a near-invisible tripwire strung between 2 roots. A sharp snap echoed through the mist. He didn't even have time to shout before a spiked pit yawned open beneath him, swallowing him whole. A wet, heavy crunch followed. Panic splintered the formation. Shouts in guttural alien tongues. Plasma rifles swung wildly. Helena squeezed the trigger once, clean, sharp. The rear soldier dropped instantly, a smoking hole through the side of his neck. The others fired blindly into the mist, bolts sizzling past trees and vaporizing leaves. Helena was already moving, low and silent, circling them like a wolf around wounded prey. Another step, another shot, this time through a kneecap. The alien screamed, falling into the mud, weapon clattering from his hands. The last soldier bolted, charging into the jungle, abandoning his comrades without a second thought. Helena lowered the rifle. "Coward!" she muttered, then turned her attention to the wounded one writhing in the mud. She approached cautiously, boot crunching over broken branches. The soldier's mandibles clicked desperately, hands raised in surrender. Helena knelt beside him. "How many squads did they send after us?" The alien spat blood, glaring with hate. Helena pressed the rifle barrel lightly against his chest. "You're already dead," she said calmly. "Help yourself to a quicker end." His mouth twisted. 6 patrols? He rasped. "Commander, furious, hunting you himself." Helena stood without a word. A swift crack of her boot ended the conversation. She wiped the rain from her face and moved, weaving deeper into the jungle's heart. By late afternoon, Helena had laid a web of death across the river's edge, pitfalls, tripwires, collapsing ledges rigged with simple counterweights. She had no illusions about defeating them all, but every kill chipped away at their morale, and their numbers. As she adjusted a camouflaged snare near a cluster of jagged rocks, a low whistle caught her ear. Elias. She turned to see him emerging from the mist, battered but alive, dragging a salvaged pack behind him. "Gift from our dearly departed friends," he said, tossing the pack down. Inside were ration bars, energy cells, 2 knives, and a compact medkit. "Beautiful," Helena said, grabbing a ration and tearing it open with her teeth. The bland nutrient paste tasted like ash, but it steadied her. "How many have you hit?" Elias asked, kneeling to wrap a fresh bandage around his thigh. 2 squads scattered. 1 eliminated. She checked the rifle's charge, half empty. "Enough," Elias snorted. "At this rate, we'll clear the jungle by next week." Helena smirked. "We don't need to clear it. Just bleed them until they quit." A branch snapped nearby, too deliberate to be an animal. Both froze. Helena raised her rifle, signaling Elias to flank left. They moved like liquid through the undergrowth, no words needed. 3 soldiers appeared, stalking the path with cautious steps. Heavier armor this time, elite forces. Smart. No exposed skin, visors scanning thermals. Helena clicked her tongue softly. New game, new rules. She waited until they passed the first marker, a moss-covered stone she had placed hours ago. Then she threw a small stone against a distant tree trunk. The sound drew the patrol's attention instantly. Plasma rifles snapped to ready. As they advanced toward the noise, their backs opened to the real threat. Helena and Elias struck together, 2 shots, 2 bodies hitting the ground before the 3rd soldier even processed it. The survivor whirled, firing wildly. A bolt grazed Helena's shoulder, spinning her sideways. Pain flashed bright, but she gritted her teeth and rolled into cover. Elias ducked behind a thick root, popping up long enough to put 2 precise shots through the alien's helmet. The body slumped into the mud. Helena pressed a hand to her seared shoulder, grimacing. "Could have done without that." "Adds character," Elias quipped, tossing her a stim pack from the salvage pile. She jabbed it into her neck without hesitation, feeling the numbing rush wash away the worst of the burn. "We can't stay here," Helena said, scanning the trees. "They'll track the shots." "Agreed." "Where?" She pointed northeast. "Old drainage ravines. Good choke points." They moved fast, weaving through roots and low branches, every step calculated. The jungle seemed to close in tighter the deeper they went. Somewhere, a predator shrieked unseen. As they neared the ravines, they found signs of another patrol, fresh prints, broken foliage, the faint scent of ozone. Helena's mind raced. 6 patrols. Elite squads now. And Dierivok somewhere in the mist, closing the noose. Good. She wanted him angry. She wanted him reckless. The ravine came into view, 20 meters deep, walls sheer and muddy. Only a few narrow paths led across it, the rest a death trap of unstable ground. Perfect. Helena crouched, sketching rough lines in the mud with her blade. "We set charges here, here, and here. Rig the bridge points. Force them into the kill zone." Elias grinned, savage and tired. "Home field advantage." Together they worked quickly, laying snares, planting energy cells turned into crude explosives. Every second counted. As night fell, the jungle shifted again, new sounds, sharper movements, hungrier things waking. Helena sat back, wiping rain from her eyes. She glanced at Elias. "You ready?" He checked his rifle, thumbed the safety off. "Always." Helena stared into the dark, listening to the distant approach of boots crashing through underbrush. Tonight would be a bloodbath. And for once, it wouldn't be their blood. The first explosion tore through the jungle with a roar that sent birds shrieking into the stormy sky. Mud and debris rained down, muffling the startled shouts of soldiers caught in the blast's wake. Helena wiped a smear of grit from her cheek and watched from the ravine's edge. Through a pair of scavenged optics, she tracked the chaos unfolding. Galactic troopers, their silver armor now stained brown, stumbled over each other, trying to regroup. "Beautiful work," Elias whispered beside her, adjusting the sights on his stolen rifle. "They're scattering," Helena observed. "Push them toward choke point 2. Elias gave a grim nod. "With pleasure." Helena rose into a low sprint, weaving between broken roots and tangled vines. Every trap they set wasn't just for the kill, it was to herd them, guide their fear. She relished the shift in power. They weren't prey anymore. Another charge detonated as a squad tried to flank left, the earth collapsing beneath them into a pit lined with sharpened spikes. Screams cut through the humid air. Helena didn't flinch. She didn't have the luxury. She vaulted over a fallen log, landing silently in the mud, and trained her rifle on a soldier limping toward the eastern path. One clean shot dropped him. She moved immediately, slipping through the jungle before the others could pinpoint her position. Elias's voice crackled softly in her ear through the salvaged comms. 2 more squads closing in from the south. Dra Vox leading them. Helena crouched beneath a curtain of vines. "Good. Time to introduce ourselves." She pulled a small detonator from her belt and thumbed the trigger. Far off, the ridge face blew open in a plume of smoke, sending boulders crashing down. Roars of alarm filled the channel. Perfect confusion. Helena swung around the perimeter, fast and silent, until she reached a narrow ridge overlooking the southern approach. Below, Dra Vox troops pushed forward, formation tight but strained, faces taut with frustration. And there, towering over the others, was Dra Vox himself, armor polished, blade strapped across his back, mandibles flaring with rage. Helena adjusted her sights, finger resting lightly on the trigger. She could end him now. One shot clean. But killing him here would rob the galaxy of the truth she needed to expose. No. She would humiliate him, as he had tried to humiliate them. She aimed lower. The blast caught the forward line squarely in the chest. The concussion hurled bodies through the air like broken dolls. Dra Vox staggered but stayed upright, roaring orders. Helena didn't wait to admire the damage. She and Elias slipped through the canopy like ghosts, never engaging directly, always staying 2 steps ahead. They weren't just surviving. They were orchestrating. By nightfall, Dra Vox forces were battered and fraying. Patrols stuck close together now, weapons constantly scanning the shadows. Helena and Elias regrouped near the riverbank, backs pressed to a slick stone wall. Helena examined the stolen data pad they'd lifted from a fallen officer, real-time troop movements, squad IDs, supply lines. "Looks like they're pulling back to the northern plateau," Elias said, pointing at the shifting markers. "Consolidating defenses," Helena muttered. "They think we're cornered." Elias grinned, teeth flashing. "We let them believe that." Helena nodded. "We'll bait them. Final push. Tonight." They moved quickly, setting their last traps in the narrowing trails toward the plateau, trip mines disguised among roots, branches rigged to snap with deadly force. Every step calculated, every breath measured. The jungle had changed with them, no longer an enemy, but an ally. It swallowed their scents, muffled their footsteps, embraced them as part of its primal law. As they worked, Helena caught glimpses of the soldiers, paranoid, twitchy, firing at shadows. Some barked at each other in rising panic. Discipline was unraveling. "We broke them," Elias said quietly, awe creeping into his voice. "No," Helena corrected. "They broke themselves. We just gave them the push." Thunder rumbled above, rattling the canopy. The air thickened with the promise of another storm. Helena crouched low as a squad stumbled into the next trap. A razor-thin wire stretched across a narrow path. A compressed energy charge detonated, shattering trees and throwing bodies in every direction. Screams followed, but fewer now. She tapped her comms. "Phase 3. Meet at the plateau." "On it," Elias answered, voice steady. Reaching the plateau's edge, Helena moved cautiously. The ground here was less forgiving, open rock faces, scattered ruins of ancient alien structures. Harder to hide. Harder to run. Perfect. Through the scope, she spotted Diarevok rallying what remained of his forces, maybe a dozen soldiers, a pitiful remnant of the once proud battalion. His mandibles clicked furiously, his commands sharp with desperation. Helena's fingers itched for the rifle, but she stayed her hand. Fear was a sharper weapon now. She waited, letting the silence press down like a smothering hand. Finally, Elias emerged from the mist, crouched beside a crumbling stone pillar. He gave a brief nod. Ready. Helena slung her rifle and drew the captured blade from her hip. Close quarters now. Final cut. As if sensing the shift, Diarevok spun, barking to his men to form a perimeter. Too late. Helena and Elias moved as one. The first two soldiers fell without a sound, one to Elias's blade, one to Helena's ruthless strike. The others panicked, firing wildly, lighting up the night with sizzling bolts. Helena ducked and rolled, coming up inside the perimeter, blade flashing. She drove it into a soldier's side, twisted, yanked free. Elias covered her flank, precise and brutal. Within moments, the plateau was littered with broken bodies. Only Diarevok remained. He stood tall, bloodied but defiant, massive fists curling around the hilt of his blade. His mandibles snapped in fury. Helena straightened, chest heaving, rain streaming from her hair. She locked eyes with him across the ruined ground. "This is your empire's finest?" she called, voice cutting through the storm. Diarevok roared, charging. Helena didn't flinch. She met him head-on. Diarevok's charge shook the ground. Helena dropped low, blade ready. His weapon cleaved the air above her head. She pivoted, slashing across his thigh. Sparks flew as the edge bit through armor. He howled, swung again, wide, desperate. She rolled past him, sprang up behind his back, and slammed the hilt into the base of his skull. He stumbled but didn't fall. "Elias, now!" she barked. Elias tossed her a stun bat and scavenged from a fallen guard. She caught it midair, jabbed it into Diarevok's exposed neck. Electricity surged through the warlord's frame. His knees buckled. He collapsed with a grunt, twitching. "Still breathing," Elias muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "Good," Helena replied, staring down at him. "We need him alive." They bound Diarevok's limbs with fiber cord, then stripped his command chip from his armor. It pulsed with encrypted access codes, exactly what they needed. "Let's move," Helena said, slipping it into her wrist device. The jungle thinned near the base perimeter. Floodlights swept wide arcs across electrified fencing. Watchtowers pulsed with motion sensors. Guard drones buzzed overhead like mechanical wasps. Helena crouched beside Elias under a broken slope, surveying the defenses. 2-minute scan intervals, he whispered. "We jump between blind spots." Helena nodded, eyes scanning. "Straight through the northeast access tunnel. Power station runs under it." They moved as shadows, slipping through mist and broken terrain. At the fence, Helena disabled the energy grid using Diarevok's chip. The barrier fizzled silent. They crawled through the breach. Inside, the compound was chaos. Emergency protocols were active, soldiers running, systems glitching from earlier sabotage. Nobody expected an assault now. Perfect. Helena led the way, ducking into service corridors. They moved fast, tracing paths through utility maps downloaded from the commander's chip. "Security office up ahead," Elias said. "That's our broadcast hub." Helena kicked the door in. 2 guards spun in surprise. Elias dropped one with a shot to the throat. Helena stunned the other before he could hit the alarm. She dragged him aside while Elias interfaced with the console. "Give me 5 minutes," he said, tapping keys. She barricaded the door with overturned furniture, keeping her rifle trained on the hallway. "Uploading proof of the training games," Elias said, eyes flicking across feeds. "Prisoner logs, footage, audio. The council's going to have a field day. Make sure it hits public relays too." Helena said. This doesn't vanish into bureaucracy. On it. Elias smiled grimly. And done. Broadcasting. Helena exhaled. Footsteps thundered outside. Heavy. She yanked open the vent grate behind them. Time to disappear. They crawled through narrow ducts, muffling their movements. Beneath them, alarms screamed. Voices shouted. The entire base reeled under confusion. They emerged into the power station, massive generators humming with raw energy. This is the spine, Helena said. Take it out, and their grid collapses. Elias opened his bag, pulling out plasma charges. 5 should do. They planted explosives across coolant lines and junction points, working quickly. Every second counted. Then they ran. As they reached the exit tunnel, Helena activated the detonator. The base shook. Lights failed. Sirens died mid-screech. Backup power sputtered on, barely enough for emergency lighting. From behind, a guttural roar echoed through the corridor, deep, furious. Dr. Vok. Helena turned. He was there, limping but upright, face twisted with rage, a blade in hand. You think this ends here? He snarled, voice like gravel. No, Helena said, leveling her rifle. It ends with everyone watching. She tapped her comm. The feed went live. Helmet cam. Full transmission to the same relays they'd used minutes ago. Dr. Vok froze. You're already exposed, she said. Let's see what happens when they hear you beg. He lunged. She sidestepped, firing once, blast grazing his shoulder, spinning him. Elias tackled him from behind. They crashed into the wall. Dr. Vok swung wildly, catching Elias's ribs with the blunt end of the blade. He grunted in pain but held tight. Helena closed in. Rifle gone. Blade in hand. She stabbed upward, straight into Dr. Vok's side. The warlord shuddered. She twisted, pulled out, and let him collapse. Tell your empire, she whispered, crouching over him. Humanity doesn't kneel. The escape tunnel led to a launch bay, a forgotten maintenance route Helena had memorized from old blueprints. A single skiff remained, half covered in dust. Elias powered it up while Helena rigged the gate behind them to collapse. You good? She asked, eyeing his limp. Hurts like hell, he muttered. But I'll live. The skiff roared to life, thrusters vibrating under their boots. They soared into the stormy sky, Veltrax shrinking behind them. Elias leaned back, wincing. So, think they'll stop laughing now? Helena smiled faintly, eyes on the stars. They'll never forget. Veltrax 4 receded behind them, a mass of storm-choked clouds and burning wreckage. From the skiff's canopy, Helena watched plumes of smoke spiral into the upper atmosphere. The jungle had claimed its vengeance. The Empire had choked on its arrogance. Comm signals holding, Elias said, tapping through the navigation console. Broadcast spreading. News hubs already grabbing pieces of it. Helena leaned forward, watching data feed across the cracked screen. Headlines blinked into life. Human operatives expose galactic war crimes. Veltrax scandal ignites Senate outrage. Empire scrambles for response. She sat back. Took long enough. Elias smirked. You always did like making an exit. Only when it matters. He winced as he shifted in his seat. We've still got half the system to cross. We'll make it. They didn't speak for a while. The hum of the engine filled the silence. Out the viewport, the stars shimmered like quiet witnesses. 3 days later, they docked at a fringe station orbiting Elian Prime, a neutral zone crawling with merchants, informants, and bureaucrats pretending they weren't paid to look the other way. Helena stepped off the skiff wearing Dr. Vok's insignia pinned to her chest like a trophy. Every eye followed her. No one dared question it. Inside the station, a delegate from the Intergalactic Council awaited them, tall, spindly, eyes scanning data through embedded lenses. He bowed stiffly. Sergeant Ward. Corporal Thorne. We've received your transmission. Helena folded her arms. And? The delegate hesitated. The Council is deeply disturbed. An emergency session has been called. You'll both be debriefed immediately. Helena's jaw tightened. If you bury this. We won't, the delegate cut in. Too many eyes saw it. Too many voices demanding answers. Elias gave her a sideways glance. Did we just start a war? Helena didn't blink. No. We ended a farce. 2 weeks passed. News spread like wildfire. Helena and Elias sat in a quiet cafe on Mars, discreet, tucked into the lower levels of New Columbia. Outside, red dust swirled past reinforced windows. Inside, no one bothered them. At least not openly. Across every system, broadcasts played fragments of Veltrax, videos of soldiers laughing at bound humans, recordings of DRA Vox taunts, and images of the aftermath, his shattered command, the wrecked base, Helena's final words echoing across a million screens. Humanity had been underestimated for the last time. Elias took a sip of strong black coffee, wincing at the bitterness. Think they'll make a movie about it? Helena raised an eyebrow. They'll soften the blood. He chuckled. They always do. A man approached their table, broad shoulders, civilian clothes, but the gait of someone who'd spent years in uniform. Ma'am. Sir? He said, hesitating. I just wanted to say, thank you. My brother was at Veltrax last year. Never came back. Council said he disappeared during drills. Helena met his gaze. He didn't disappear. He was erased. The man nodded once, emotion tight in his throat. Then he turned and left. Elias exhaled slowly. That's going to happen more. Good, Helena said. It should. Back at their temporary quarters, Helena found a message waiting. Clearance level, read. Sender, Earth Defense Command. She read it twice, then passed the tablet to Elias. Well, he said, blinking. That's unexpected. They want us to train a task force, Helena said. Independent unit. Deep recon. No leash. Name? She smiled slightly. Hunters. Elias leaned back, letting it settle in. Fitting. She walked to the window, watching transports lift off from the Martian hangars below. They laughed at us, Elias. He stood beside her. They're not laughing now. Months passed. Veltrax became a ghost planet. The Empire abandoned it under Council pressure. No soldier wanted to be stationed there. The jungle reclaimed the ruins. Trees grew through shattered watchtowers. Vines wrapped around rusting gun barrels. The wind carried only silence. But stories remained. Across barracks and border posts, in hushed voices and firelit gatherings, soldiers told the tale. Of a woman and a man who survived the Empire's cruelty. Who hunted the hunters. Who brought down a warlord and broadcast his shame. They spoke of Helena Ward with a kind of reverence and fear. Some said she still walked the jungle, face painted in ash, waiting for the next trespasser. Others claimed the jungle itself rose to protect her. Legends blurred with truth. But the message was always the same. Don't underestimate humanity. Not again. Never again.